Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and we're talking sport. Yeah, and today we're talking sport to Harry Walsh, the sports editor with the Donegal News, and I'm glad to welcome back Brendan Kilcoyne, who took part in our first Talking Sport back in June. Brendan, can you believe it? It was that long ago. And we're going to be talking obviously about the Donegal Senior Championship quarter-finals coming up, but we're also going to be looking forward to the soccer action. There's a big cup weekend ahead, and to one or two other things on the programme. And in fact, we're starting with hurling, because the Senior Hurling Championship final in Donegal is on Saturday. Birds are taking on Setanta at the O'Donnell Park at 3 o'clock. But last Sunday, of course, we had the All-Ireland Hurling Senior Championship final between Clare and Cork. And Brendan, you were in Croke Park to witness what turned out to be a real cracker of a game.
Yeah, and it was a great privilege to be at the game. It was really a special occasion, Charlie, in that, the atmosphere, the tension in the crowd. Even before the match coming up Clonriff Road, up Jones Road, the Clare crowd were just electric and they were on fire. And, the minor match second half was a good starter to the whole day. But as I say, the senior match was just one of the most unbelievable experiences I ever witnessed at any sporting event. It was just nip and tuck the whole way through. You had Clare, who were the dominant team, and Clare were coming out with the schlitter through the schmozzles and all that. It was always a Clare man invariably that came out with the ball. But then you had Cork coming back very strong in the second half and hitting absolutely cracking goals when they needed them most. When the game could have just slipped away from them, they just picked the right time and they showed great character and heart to get the goal. And then you had that grandstand finish with Clare coming up, getting last puck of the ball over the bar. It was just amazing to be there, Charlie. It really was.
And as a neutral, did you come away feeling, as I felt watching it, a draw was a fair result? They both deserved another day at it, Brendan.
Yeah, 100%. It would have been a travesty, I think, if Clare hadn't gotten something out of the day, because they really played admirably on the day. And I think, even a lot of the crowd, and I was speaking to a few Corkmen after, and they didn't really have a massive problem with the draw. Naturally, they thought they were across the line. But, the Cork crowd are fair sport. They know the sport, and they were acknowledging of the fact that, Clare did deserve to get something out of the day.
And Harry, watching it, like I know you did, like myself on the TV, it's amazing, no matter what sort of a sport you're involved in, where there's a ball involved, if you score goals, it's going to keep you in matches or get you back into matches.
Very much so. There were two or three occasions during that match that Clare had it won in everything but name. But on each occasion, they were 4 or 5 points up. Cork got a goal. Clare edged ahead again. A couple of minutes later, Cork got another goal. So it was compelling viewing the whole way through.
Yeah. Davy Fitz, great character, stern looking man on the sideline. I'm just going to quote him here from today's Irish Independent, Harry, and you'll know being from the media just what goes on behind the scenes. But apparently this happened when they were coming out of the hotel yesterday, and I'll read a paragraph further down and then go back to one. Davy Fitz says, "I think the best thing, because I'll only get myself into trouble no matter what I say, is that I'm not going to comment. All I'll say," after saying he wasn't going to comment, "all I'll say is the amount of texts and calls I've got from people outside Clare is unreal. I just prefer not to go into it." Now, all that came after him saying these are the authorities of Croke Park, have got to have a good look at it and sort it out. We might only be small fry, but we deserve a good crack at anything, and I'll just leave it in their hands completely. So he said nothing, but he had a real go at Croke Park at the same. This is all over the refereeing performance, of course.
Absolutely, he said plenty, and so it all. The main incident was one we all seen, was the Clare fullback hitting the full forward on the top of the head, wasn't it? Oh, vice versa.
Vice versa. Cork fullback, very lucky to stay on.
And in fairness to Davy Fitz, like him or loathe him, he obviously can say something to these lads inside the dressing room, because he's got them pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, well, we were down in Cork. Parky Run it was, with Donegal against Cork and the footballers in the National League earlier this year, and Cork were playing Clare in the hurling immediately afterwards, and the dressing room was beside where we were, and Davy Fitz was giving his team talk, and I've heard you giving team talks, Brendan, before. It's mild stuff. He was going bananas with the team. Going bananas with the team.
You have two totally contrasting styles on the line on Sunday. So you had your Jimmy Barry Murphy, cool, calm, collected, and a genius of a footballer and a hurler in his own day kind of thing, but just sits back or stands back and takes in all the action. And then you have Davy Fitz, who's just one of a kind, like he really is. But he brings something different, and he brings some major personality to the game. And like him or loathe him, he's done a fantastic job with Clare, so he has getting them to an All-Ireland final. But there's obviously a lot of work gone behind the scenes in Clare too. They've an under-21 final this weekend, so they have, and they've had good minor teams over the last few years. But it's enjoyable to have someone like him involved in these games, so it is, because he brings something extra and something special, and
unique characters.
It does, and I was Irish Times on Saturday. They had, I think it was 8 commentators were asked to say what would Davy Fitz's last 20 words be before sending the team out, and every one of the 8 commentators had an expletive in the middle of it.
I'm surprised there's only one. Anyway, the replay is going to be on a Saturday at the end of the month, and Cork are not too happy about that. I don't think Clare either. It is at 5 o'clock on a Saturday. It's not a great time to be taking people from Cork and Clare into Dublin. It's a long journey, and the traffic's going to be crazy getting parked around that. But anyway, Croke Park, fair play to them, were committed to the ladies' finals on the Sunday that might have been available, and they're going to stick with that. Yeah,
and I suppose most GA people are traditionalists at heart, and I think that's a lot of the problem, is that they see that their All-Ireland final should be at 3:30 throw-in on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's a lot of the problem. Now, you did allude to traffic issues and that kind of thing, and that will be an issue too, kind of thing. But it's novel. It's on a Saturday. It's great that there's another game that we can all look forward to. So I'm personally not concerned whether it's Saturday or Sunday. I can understand where they're coming from, but it's great to look forward to.
Just closer to home, Senior Hurling Championship final, Harry, Burt against Setanta, and after the success of the hurlers this year, of course, on the Nicky Rackard, hurling on a bit of a high, and some presentations at the weekend, last weekend I think it was, for the hurlers as well. So Burt probably gone in there as favourites. They had a lot of players on that county squad. Setanta had a few good players on as well. But traditionally, I suppose we expect Burt to win finals.
Very much so, Charlie. Burt had been the marquee name in Donegal down through the years, and Setanta will put it up to them. But I'd say come the end of 70 minutes that Burt will win it.
Yeah, Brendan?
Yeah, I'd have to go with Harry on that. Burt have been this, they've been the stronghold in Donegal. They've won something like some mental number of championships in a row, 20 plus or something like that in a row. Now, Setanta are the other sort of hurling stronghold in the county too, and you'd McCool stepped in last year. Union's hurling is improving, so hurling is improving in the county. There is a lot of work been done on it by a small core
Absolutely.
group of people, kind of thing, and fair play to them. But I think Burt should have too much for Setanta.
Yeah. Just before we go on to the football championship quarterfinals that are on this weekend, and great interest in them, of course, and all sorts of controversy about them being played and not being played, but they're finally on Saturday and Sunday. Just the Jim McGuinness situation, Harry, has been all over the media since the defeat by Mayo. I suppose it hasn't really stopped. Will he or will he not stay, or will he go? And we know that, and congratulations to him and Yvonne, by the way, on the birth of their twins, Bonnie and Eve, at the weekend. But Jim met the executive, subsequently the executive came back and met the clubs. Then Jim met people from the clubs last weekend, and there was another meeting since that. And the core, we know what the problem is. He doesn't want the championship interfering, the club championship interfering with his preparation for the senior championship. It would appear to me, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, that we're swaying towards parking the championship until Donegal either won, lose or whatever.
That appears to be the case, Charlie. It seems like, as has become more prevalent nowadays, a club versus county row. I mean, ultimately, as Brandon would know a lot better than you or I, being a club manager, that it's more about more than about the one or two county players. It's about all 30 at your club or what have you. So it's
it's an awkward one, Brendan, isn't it? Because you want to accommodate the senior team manager given the success Donegal have had, and I mean, there's no doubt that they felt aggrieved this year with the club championship going ahead and players picking up injuries, and it's something Jim wants sorted out before he makes up his mind.
It is, and you can't question what Jim has done for football in the county over the last 2 or 3 years, so you can't question that. I suppose there is this club versus county argument. We're going into a situation now where we've quarterfinals next weekend in the club championship, and it seems like nearly another club championship from the club championship that was played a couple of months ago. The form lines are hard to read. It's hard to know where teams are at, really, so it is, because all they've played is maybe some league games in between. You have to understand where Jim is coming from on it. Now, we go back to last year, and the club championship was run off very late in the year, and to me, I really enjoyed going to games, going over the convoy on a Wednesday evening under lights, and the atmosphere was fantastic at it. So I do understand the issues for club managers preparing teams and for club footballers, and it really is difficult. It's difficult for a club manager to kind of get a team ready for a championship that's starting in May and then is going to sit back for 2 months and then to get them ready again for, we'll say, the end of August or September and that. And, there are a lot of issues around this, but there has to be a compromise. Every other county can do it. Successful counties that are reaching All-Ireland semi-finals, finals on a regular basis are able to do it. So it's about the the relevant authorities sitting down and coming up with something that everyone's happy with, because this seems to be an argument that's going on every year. So it does.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, okay, Donegal got to the All-Ireland last year, the championship was run off. There was no major problem. Everyone was happy about it. You know, I was meeting people at matches, and you were able to go to a match, and this is in September when normally there's very little happening in October.
Austin O'Kennedy came out, if you remember, and made a statement that he was concerned about players having to play. Donegal Town, Four Masters were caught in a real bind, because I think some of their matches went to a replay, and it meant them playing what seemed an enormous amount of games in a very short period, Brendan.
Absolutely. Like, and you know, I was at some of them Four Masters games, and you know, they were the losers really, because they were going well in the championship and they were a victim of their own circumstances.
Yeah.
But sometimes these things happen in football, and the reason that Four Masters really suffered was that their key player Carl was really struggling through it, like, you know. You know, and I'm not, and I did empathise with Donegal Town going through it last year, but it was the way it was. Donegal were All-Ireland champions at the time. The championship had to be played in that manner in order to have a team ready for the Ulster club. So I don't know, maybe it's a bigger picture where the Ulster club maybe needs to be put back or something like that, you know. Why does it need to start?
Exactly.
If there's only 3 games to be played in it, or 4 plus a preliminary, why does it need to start in October?
And then that's parked then until February.
Exactly,
March.
Because you know, you look at even our weather systems for the last few years. You get as good a day in the middle of December as you will in the middle of October or March. Yeah. So, you know, maybe it's the bigger picture needs to be looked at, as opposed to so that clubs can then plan better for it.
But the general feeling would be, Harry, that the clubs understand where Jim's coming from, and although they obviously have to think about club players and that sort of thing, that hopefully, I mean, it would make good sense for everybody to reach a compromise of some sort. It's not going to be perfect for either party, I'm sure, but it's going to benefit club football and hopefully county football. And at the end of the day, that's really what it should be all about.
Oh, very much so, Charlie. As Brendan alluded to there, September last year, I mean, we'll never ever forget that Sunday afternoon, you know, and what came after it, you know.
Yeah.
And you're right, Four Masters had to play, I think it was 5 matches in 18 days or something like that. But they were working with a relatively small panel of players. I mean, outside St Eunan's, what other club team in Donegal could carry 2 or 3, or like the likes of Carl missing? You can't really carry 2 or 3 injuries. Any club team can't. They say outside Eunan's, it's got a big population base.
Sure.
But we can all understand where Jim's coming from, and please God, in the coming days they'll reach a compromise.
Sort it out.
Yeah.
Well, in the coming days, the championship gets back underway again, and of course 2 matches on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. We're going to start with Saturday in Buncrana, St Eunan's against the somewhat surprise package of Malin, who weren't expected to come through because obviously Niamh Connell were in that group as well, Harry, and big disappointment for them, but fantastic for Malin to reach a quarter final, and they've done it in merit, because there wasn't an expectation that they would be there.
Oh, absolutely. And I like what Terence Colquhoun's doing down in Malin. You know, he's bringing on some younger players, and some of the older lads are still there. I was just looking back, their last quarter final was back in 2006. And Anthony Kelly scored 6 points that day.
I remember that,
and Anthony's still playing, and the Burns are still playing, you know. So you've got that older guard, but then you've got some younger lads coming through as well, you know. So they have a nice balance here, and I like what they're doing down in the show.
Invariably, Eunan's are going to be favourites. People look at that fixture and think Eunan's will definitely be favourites there because of their strength and depth, Brendan, and many people would make them favourites for the championship. But we're at a quarter-final stage. Malin, very good at home. Very, very good at home, and they've had some good away results as well, but really, championship quarter final, you expect St Eunan's to win that one.
Yeah, and you know, Eunan's are favourites for a reason, you know, because they've been the dominant team for the last few years, and you know, even through this year's championship, they've been a team that's been steady, and league, their form has been steady the whole year through. Now, I was out at the Eunan's Malin when they met earlier on the championship out in O'Donnell Park, and Eunan's got off to an absolute flyer that day at the start of the game. But after first 20 minutes, Malin stayed with them through the rest of the game and really put it up to them. And Malin have showed, so, you know, they got a fantastic result when they had to put the score on the board against Cloughaneely down at Malin. They put the score on the board. And I certainly wouldn't, while I accept Eunan's are favourites and I accept that they deserve to be favourites, I would be very reluctant to write Malin off. I think with the game in Buncrana, which is great, you know, to have a championship game down in Inishowen. And I can't remember, I'm 15 or 16 odd years involved with St Eunan's, and I can't remember being down in Inishowen at a championship match before at this stage of the competition kind of thing. So it's great, you know, it's different. I think Malin, you know, they'll really put it up to Eunan's. They've done fantastically well to get here. No one expects anything of them, really.
Great way
so
to go.
They're preparing themselves down there nicely, and they're in a good place, so they are. Eunan's, you know, Connell Dunn is a big loss to Eunan's. He's out for this game, so he is. And he's been playing very well for Eunan's at centre forward this year. So he's going to be an obviously loss in a game where, you know, winning dirty ball around the middle of the park, and that's Connell's game kind of thing, you know. So Yeah, Union's favourites, deservedly so, but they're not going to get it all their own way, in my opinion.
No, I think you're right. Later on Saturday in Convoy, it's McCool's against Killybegs. Killybegs remarkable, Harry. I don't think they've won a league game, but they've surprised everyone. And they came through what was a group, I suppose, where 4 teams were relatively evenly matched, and any 2 could have come out of it. But they come out of it probably on the back of the draw they got down in Gweedore, which was a fantastic result for them. McCool's surprise package as well. When they needed a result up in Ardra, they went up and they got it. So it's an interesting one, that, and possibly a hard one to call.
Very much so. I was chatting to Martin Sluaboyle after they beat Dunlow, their last game in Killybegs, to get through, and he laughed. He said that they realised that the relegation was confirmed this weekend, but they knew from weeks back they were going back down to Division 2. So they really threw all their eggs into the championship basket. And as we all know, Killybegs are a formidable championship team, and you write them off at your pearl. And the boys, like they've got Hugh McFadden back in midfield for them, who's just added a bit of bulk and scoring prowess to the team as well. You know. And McCool's, they won their first championship match last year, the first one since 2004 when they reached the final. And I think it's again 30-something years since they last won the title. So it's good to see football getting strong again in the Twin Towns too.
Yeah, Brennan Dunleavy has done a very good job over there, and a lot of young players, and mixed with experience there as well, Brendan.
Yeah, and it's good to see McCool's coming back strong. I remember when I came up here first and I was playing with Unions, some great battles with McCool's in the late 90s, when we were reaching finals at that stage. And so they have some good young players coming through, and they've done exceptionally well to get to the quarter final and come out of the group that they're in. Killybegs, on the other hand, and it's funny, we were talking about the relegated and they've lost 14 games, and I was just looking at the points differential on the table this morning, and it's something like Unions are plus 95 at the top of the table, or no, Unions are plus 65 at the top of the table, and Killybegs are minus 95, so it's a 160 point turnaround between their points differential in League One. So their form has been abysmal in the league. Now, I saw them playing against Unions, and they did kind of put it up to them in the park there, so that when they played them in the league. But Killybegs, to me, are a footballing team. The footballers all over the park, and they always will. They know how to play the game. They've cute men on the line that will have them well directed and well guided. And they're one team, I suppose, because of the experience I had myself playing against them, and I know that times have changed, but there's this inherent belief in them that if they go out and they play to a system, that they can make it work. And I would be reluctant to write Killybegs off no matter who they're playing. I think they might have a bit too much cuteness for McCool's at the weekend, but I think it'll be close. I'm not sure if Matthew Smith is back in line for Killybegs. I think that could play a key factor if Matthew is back and playing and fit in that, because he has developed from his involvement in the county squad for the last couple of years. And you go through the Killybegs teams, every one of them are footballers, and we're good underage footballers at that level. So I would have a fancy for Killybegs to come through on that one, Jerry.
Interesting one. On to Sunday, and I suppose the marquee game when the draw was made. I'm sure both these teams wanted to avoid one another, and we had a discussion about the fact, again, like Unions and Malin, that Glenswilly and Kilcar were in the same group, and that should have been possibly avoided. Harry, it's a game everybody's waiting for. You're over there in southwest Donegal. Kilcar have been edging their way through in the last couple of years, and they're up there in the league challenging Unions for league honours, and they're putting up big scores, and they've got the three McHughes, if you include Owen McHugh, the McSheans, they've got Patrick McBurty, they've got Michael Hegarty. So they have the nucleus of a very, very good team. We know who Glenswilly have, and Murphy and Neil Gallagher and Kieran Boner and Gary McFadden, and you can name the other McFadden lads and sort of thing. So it has the makings of a cracker of a game. And the last time they played in the championship, it was a real tough battle. Semi-final, wasn't it? It
was, that's right. And in the group of death, Kilcar had a narrow win in Towney when the teams met. When they met earlier this year, And as Brendan says there a couple of minutes ago, they're a bit like Killybegs. They're footballers all through the team as well. It's maybe it's not a right analogy, but beauty against the beast. Kilcar will have 15 fine footballers, and don't get me wrong, Glenswilly aren't a beast, but they're beastly men. Yeah. They're big. The full back line, they're just big right through the spine of the team. And Aaron could lay the problem for Kilcar is just getting round and obviously when you got the likes of Murphy and big Neil Gallagher and Copper and boys like that. You know, they're a formidable outfit. But this is one of those ones now. I wouldn't be putting my mortgage on it, Charlie.
No, I don't think anybody will, Brendan, because it's a tough one to call. I mean, I was down at the bridge when Glenswilly went down and played St Michael's, and Michael's had to won that game, and they never looked like winning it. The one spoiled it a bit that night.
Yes.
But just Glenswilly had that thing about them that they didn't panic against the wind or with the wind, and then they played well against the wind. And they're going to have to curtail Kilcar, because if Kilcar get away from them and play the sort of football they've been playing, Glenswilly are going to be in trouble.
Absolutely, and listen, it's the tie of the round. It's the game everyone will want to see at the weekend. You know, Glenswilly, Kilcar, they've met before. There's a bit of history there between them. Things got hot and heavy down in Towney at the group stage game. But they're two teams that are going well this year. Kilcar have been going very well in the league, and they have the footballers all over the field, as we mentioned earlier on. I think Stephen McBrearty is going to be a loss to Kilcar this weekend, because he's a big, strong lad. I know he's only 17. I mean, you might think that's foolish to be putting a lot on the shoulder of a 17-year-old, but I think he's going to be a loss to Kilcar this weekend. And I think just little things like that could go against them. Glenswilly, again, Harry mentioned it, physical, strong team. Any team with Michael Murphy in it is always going to have a chance of winning the game. But there's more to that than Glenswilly, so there isn't. It's unfair. I think a lot of people, go
right,
that way. It's
right.
unfair to say that kind of thing too. You have Big Neil, you have Copper, you have all these other guys around the field that are all accomplished footballers that have won a championship. Let's remember, just 2 years ago, and deservedly so. We were in a championship final back in 2007. So they've built up a lot of experience and a lot of steeliness through the team. So they have. I think, looking at the game on Sunday, and again, as Harry says, I would not put any money on this at all, because it really is difficult to know which way it will go. I've kind of gone in the past, and out in Glenswilly I get the odd ribbon for it.
You wouldn't be the most popular man.
No, maybe not but maybe I am popular, because every time I go against them, they win. But on this occasion, I'm going to put my neck on. I think that Glenswilly might just have the strength and the physical power that they have might be enough to get them through this game. And that's by no means disrespecting the football that I know the Kilcar are capable of, and if they get on a run. But I think Glenswilly just might have a bit too much for them on Sunday.
Tactically, it's going to be intriguing to watch this, Harry, because Gary McDaid, who was on here with me a couple of weeks ago there, and his team, I watched them at half time in the match against St Michael's, and they hadn't a big lead after playing with the wind, and it looked to me as if they weren't actually going to go into the dressing room. They spent so much time looking at laptops and assessing information and stats and that, and they must have been 7 or 8 minutes after the team gone in. And of course we know Kilcar. I mean, I remember, was it Peter Campbell wrote one time famously when Kilcar were playing Killybegs, and Killybegs were at the height of their powers. If anybody can, Kilcar can. And that's what you think about Kilcar. Never write them off.
Absolutely, and they've got Ashley Carr. Ashley Carr's back as well, and he's a very important player in that he's a scoring forward. Yeah. And with McBurty and the McHughes, I mean, I can see them, getting the scores on the board, but whether they can get enough to beat. But you mentioned Glenswilly there. I mean, I'm fascinated as well, Charlie, by these laptops and with kick-outs going to the left and going to the right and up the middle. In our day, the ball was kicked out. You won it or you lost it.
We'd have been far too confused with that sort of information. Anyway, it's an intriguing game, and it finishes off then the quarter-finals back to O'Donnell Park for Gweedore against Ardra, and Kevin Cassidy's back from the States, Brendan, and Ardra are going to be without Paddy McGrath and maybe one or two others, so the pendulum would seem to be swinging maybe Gweedore's way.
That would appear to be the way. Cass back is a massive addition. Like, to have Cass in your team, we all know what he's capable of. We've seen him playing football around the county for the last number of years, and we know what he's capable of. And again, you have the McGee's on top of that. You have the McNeill. Oren McNeill is really their talisman this year, and he's playing very good footballer, and he's a guy that will probably be moving on to senior inter-county football over the next few years. Their form has been up and down in the league. Part of that is due to player availability, maybe. Now, I'm led to believe too that they've lost 2 further players to emigration in the last couple of weeks. I believe Danny Kern and James Carroll have gone maybe to Dubai or somewhere, Abu Dhabi.
That's
or
a big
like
loss
that.
out of defence and the forward line.
Defence and the forward line, and you look at the Gweedore setup. They're very well set up defensively with the type of player they have, with the 2 McGee's and with these guys, kind of thing. So you can build, when you've them 2 guys in your team, you can build a defence around them, kind of thing. But they've struggled really since, I suppose, the time that they had Stephen Cassidy and James Gallagher and Tomas Diver as their inside line. Yeah. They've struggled really to get back to that level with their forwards. And James Carroll would have been one of the guys they've been looking to do this. So if he is missing, it's going to be a big loss to them, as it's Daddy Kern and the half back line. But by the same token, when you've Paddy McGrath out for Ardra, and Boyle, big Brendan Boyle, like, you know, who I would like to see play, because Boiler is around a while. He's had a bad run with injuries. He's a good fella. You'd like to see him back because he loves playing the game too. That might just hinder Ardra too much. And, you know, as we've mentioned at the outset, this pendulum has swung to Guidor. The longer Guidor. Now, both these teams have great championship pedigree.
They have, absolutely.
And, you know, to write any of them off would be a fool's game kind of thing. But you just feel that the longer that Guidor can hang in the championship, the longer you're getting into the dark evenings and that, and Cassidy is back, and the McGee's and these fellas get time to organise things down there. There'll be a queer detail for any team to come across, but if they get over Sunday first, I think they'll have enough to do it. It's not going to be easy, but I think they will.
Yeah. Harry, you're over that country. So what's the feeling in Ardra? They've come out of the group again, a tricky sort of a group to come out of. And as Brendan quite rightly said, traditionally, whatever about the league, they always produce good performances in the championship.
But funny you say that, Charlie. It's 2006 since they were lost in the quarter final. You know, that's 7 years.
I'm surprised at that actually.
And Guidor, for all their pedigree, have only managed to win it twice in the last 50 years. And again, it was 06 the last time they won it. You know? I seen Guidor at home to Killybegs in the championship, and that was a low scoring game, and I expect much the same on Sunday. I think this will be a low scoring game because our draw strength is in their defence. And similarly, Guidor with the McGee brothers are relatively strong in defence too. And as Brendan says, there, unfortunately, with Paddy McGraw missing and Brendan Boyle missing and Matthew Maher struggling as well, that's a big loss for any team, you know, and particularly a team that's working off small numbers like Ardra.
Okay, right. Let's look at a semi-final lineup: Unans or Malin against Glenswilly or Kilcar. Brendan?
Yeah, you're going to have to go with Unans. You're going to have to imagine that Unans come through,
and they'll play.
Is it an open draw going through into this?
I think it's. Is it? No,
it's open.
It's open draw.
The draw will be made on Sunday evening.
Yeah, all right.
But you can tell us who they're going to play anyway now.
Well, that's it. We can do the draw here if we wish. All right, McCool's Glenswilly.
McCool's Killybegs. I think Killybegs will come through on that one, Charlie.
So Killybegs, Glenswilly, Kilcar.
I'm going to stick with Glenswilly on this one.
And you're going for Guidor.
I'm going Guidor on the last one.
Harry, any change to that lineup?
Oh yeah, sure. My wife's from Kilcar, so I'll see them through, and I'll also have Ardra in the semi-final too.
All right then, just to be different.
Hard rule in the head there a bit too, so it is, Charlie.
We'll know by about 8 o'clock on Sunday evening who's right and who's wrong. Let's move on now to the other football and sports, soccer. The Republic of Ireland are playing Austria tonight, and you know what? I hate to say this, I hate to put this on the record. I'm almost hoping we're beaten tonight, and well beaten, so that we can finally, you know, grasp it and say, let's get rid of Trapattoni and let's move on. Interesting, Robbie Keane's big defence of the manager. Trapattoni earlier this week basically said the League of Ireland's a waste of time, and he's done a fantastic job and all that sort of stuff. Harry, he hasn't been a favourite of mine for a long time because I hate the way he sets the team up. I think that we've underachieved under him. There was much more potential there. He's picked negative type players, negative tactics. We play Austria tonight. I think we're gone anyway from the World Cup, even we won tonight. But it's sad that we're finishing off this campaign like this after the experience of Euro 2012 as well. Very much so. Well, go back to the start there. I thought it was just very disparaging his remarks about the League of Ireland. You know, unfortunately, we don't have the money and the resources that they have. Our neighbours have cross-channel, but the lads are doing the best and giving other their best, and they're very professional. And you know, so I just thought that was a poor comment from him. And with regards to them, as you know, Charlie, me and you played together down through the years. I found myself flicking channels last Friday night. I was watching a bit of the Northern Ireland match. I was watching a bit of the Scotland match, and I probably shouldn't admit that over the air. But I was out, Terry, and there was a TV that I could have watched, and you know what? I found myself like that, not even watching the game, you know. Yeah. So as you say, no, very disappointing. Haven't got to the Euros, you know. It's disappointing end. I mean, he will go now. I think his contract's up in November, so he'll be gone then. Yeah. You see, Brendan, this comparison he makes about the League of Ireland, it counts for nothing as far as I'm concerned, because there are very few players that have actually come through the League of Ireland that have made it to international level. You could count them on one hand. Most of the lads who've gone across, if you go back to the David O'Leary and Stapleton and Brady, they were picked up when they were very young and went across to England. And if you look at the squad that's there now, Seamus Coleman jumps to mind. How many more of them actually played? James McLean played for Derry, obviously, but most of these guys have come through the system in England. So what the standard in the League of Ireland is very little. It's unrelated to international level, really. It is, but I think even more so. I think there's a few more. Maybe Shane Long, Kevin Doyle, and a couple of them lads came through the League of Ireland. David Ford, the goalkeeper who played for Derry City. But you know, and again, going back to start after what, and again, I was at the same last Friday. You know, and it's like watching paint dry sometimes watching the play. There's no enjoyment in it at all. I think only for the Seamus Coleman was on it, I'd have flick station completely kind of thing, because I enjoy watching him. But even he seems to play with the straight jacket on him when he's playing for Ireland. You see him play for Everton, he's bombing up and down the wing, and he's you know, he's good. It's good to watch, kind of.
But, you know, the way the international football, and I'm not proclaiming to know an awful lot about it because I don't have that big an interest in it. You know, I think Trapattoni, these guys, they're overpaid, they do a poor job. You look at the group that Ireland were in kind of thing, and you're looking at Germany, who were going to qualify and always going to qualify. And it looked like a tough group at the outset.
Yeah.
But the way that it's panned out, Ireland could easily be sitting in a very strong second position if things were managed properly and if they were allowed to play with a bit of freedom or maybe given a bit of licence to go out and say, go out and play a bit, lads. And
well, do you know what, Brendan? I played golf with John Giles about a month ago. Out in Barnhill in the foundation thing. That's exactly what he said. He said, Charlie, listen, everybody looked at the group and saw Sweden and Austria. Oh, it'll be tough to finish second. He said, Sweden and Austria are nothing special. And we saw that when Ireland played them. Now, Johnny thought that maybe Ireland could get a result at the Aviva and maybe could get a result in Austria. I said to him, I don't see it happening. But it's interesting you make that point that Germany were the standout team, but second spot was a possibility. It was there for
grabs, you know, and they've proved, because we've seen them and we've seen that if we did do anything against them, that they were there for the taking. On any night that we played them, Austria got a late equaliser. It was a game could have won. I'm not saying we should have won these games, but with a bit more open-mindedness and a bit of thought about it, kind of, and not having some Italian man coming over who can't speak to the press, who has no charisma, who
takes no responsibility for anything.
There is no backing really for the international team at the minute. When you go back, when you had someone like Jack Charlton and that, and I'm not saying there's probably plenty of Irishmen that could do it for half the money. But someone with a bit of charisma that'll get people behind the team and get a bit of oomph to it again, because isn't there at the minute.
No. Martin O'Neill mentioned, Harry, possibility.
Yeah, I suppose you can only work with what's in front of you as well. We mentioned Seamie Coleman, but Seamie is one of the few, in my mind, one of the few international class players we have at the moment. You know, you look through the team, you know, they're all playing Championship Division 1 or what have you, you know, but you can only work with what you have as well, and in fairness, we don't have a whole pile here at the moment. No. But as Brandon says, we could be playing better, or we could play into a system, but not this.
I think one of the gripes I'd have, Harry, is we'd be better going out and having a go and losing the games than sitting back and losing the games the way we're losing them. You know, his record, if you look at it, he's as many draws as he has wins. He hasn't lost that many games, in fairness to him. I think he's only lost 7, and he's drawn 13 and won 14. But if you look at a lot of those games that we drew, with a wee bit of more ambition about us, we could have won them, and it'd make all the difference.
Absolutely. I took my 2 young lads to the Aviva at the Austria match, and you knew 20 minutes from the end that we were in trouble here.
Yeah.
And here's me sitting kind of 10 rows back in the stand, and why the manager can't see that in the sideline, you know, you just knew something was going to give. And unfortunately, David Alaba got the goal in the last minute. But we could see it coming. It was coming, you know.
Yeah,
and
it's disappointing. Go ahead,
you know, you look at the Ireland team, and they're a low middle tier team. You take the top rung, you take the middle rung, you take the bottom rung. We've beaten a lot of bottom rung teams over the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
We have hardly beaten any middle tier teams. I don't think we've beaten a team that's ranked above us in the last 10 or 15 years, you know. And that just shows lack of ambition. And we definitely haven't beaten any of the big guns kind of thing, you know. So when I'm talking about middle rung, I'm talking about the Sweden, Australia, teams that are like ourselves, that can get on a run and suddenly things happen. But Ireland aren't making things happen. They're just standing still with a system that's outdated, that no one likes to watch. And the players don't look like they enjoy playing.
No matter what Robbie Keane's saying. Quarter-finals in the Championship, quarter-finals in the FAI Senior Cup as well. Brendan, big interest for you here. Your hometown Sligo Rovers against Derry City is considered to be the tie of the round, and after a great start to the league season, Sligo have slipped somewhat. They're not going to win the league, so they're obviously going to be looking at the Cup, and Derry have a great Cup tradition. The showgrounds will be bouncing at the weekend.
Showgrounds will be bouncing. Like, some of my earliest memories are going to the showgrounds back in the 80s when Sligo were playing Cove Ramblers, and it went to 2 or 3 replays, and there were fantastic games. And there's a tub of curry man, Rafael Cretaro, who's a stalwart with the Rovers at the minute. Excuse me. I wouldn't just say the Rovers are gone out of the league now yet. I was looking at the table. They're 5 points behind. They have to play Pats.
Yeah.
And is it Drogheda that are second then, or Dundalk?
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't just throw the towel. There's 6 games left. A lot can happen in 6 games.
That's a biased Sligo man talking there, Harry.
But you know, listen, Charlie, you said both these teams, Sligo have a good cup tradition, and in recent times particularly do so. And maybe they might be looking at this as their way into Europe next year, as their means of collecting silverware. Very difficult to call, because you don't really know. Sligo's form has been erratic this year. You know, they haven't been,
and Derry's as well.
You know, Sligo haven't been. You know, they haven't been at the levels they were at last year, and that goes even when they were winning games. I think they won their first 7 games.
That's right.
And their manager came out and said, we're not playing well. He doesn't know how they're getting the results, but they were getting them.
We thought he was kidding.
So, absolutely, but he was proven to be right, because they then there was a bit of slippage then. But it's cup game, can go either way. Like, you know, if it's at home and Sligo have home advantage, you would probably fancy them to nick it, kind of thing, you know. But it's really difficult to say.
Harps season basically in the league disappointing. Harry and Peter Hutton's first to admit it, and beaten by Longford. But since they got that victory in the cup replay against Cove, this has been the game that counts. Home against Drogheda in the cup is a great opportunity for them to reach a cup quarter final. Although Drogheda have shown, coming to the Brandywell a couple of times and winning, it's going to be difficult. But listen, it's the big incentive for Harps on Friday night.
Oh, very much so. I mean, the last time Harps reached a quarter final was 2002, 2003. Again, you know, the decades are slipping by, and you know, but I like what Peter Hutton's doing. I like what he's trying to do. You know, again, he's working off very limited resources, but he's trying to play effectively a local team, and you can't knock a man for that. You know, the league form has been disappointing. You're right, Charlie. And again, to look at the league table, I think they're only 2 points clear of Cove, who are second from bottom.
Yeah.
So, but that'll be quickly forgotten if we could beat Drogheda on Friday night.
The cup's a different animal, really, isn't it? And Finn Park have had some great occasions. And I was up at the Waterford game, and Waterford were a good side. But Hearts played well in the second half that night. But they're just going to have to throw everything at Drogheda. There's no point in sitting back and, you know, playing for a draw, because they go down to Drogheda, you feel they wouldn't have much of a chance.
Exactly, and a lot will depend on Kevin McHugh. It's hard to believe I think it's his 17th year now playing League of Ireland football, with credit where it's due. That's there right. As well, you know.
I see he had the flu last weekend, hopefully he'll recover.
He did, and Drogheda, Declan O'Brien, he's a throwback to when they last played 10 years ago as well, you know. So
interesting. Drogheda, Sligo or Harps, Derry, what's the call on that one, Brendan?
I'm going to go for Sligo, and I think Drogheda will have too much experience for Harps. I'd love to see Harps, but I think Drogheda will have
Harry,
too much
you do the opposite, will you?
No, I'll agree with Brandon
on both occasions. Just want to mention the Ulster Senior League Cup finals on this weekend as well. Cockhill Celtic and Drumkeene United are the two top teams there, and they're playing in the cup, and then they're going to be playing what looks like a league decider in a couple of weeks' time again. So the dominant forces really in the Ulster Senior League, Cockhill Celtic and Drumkeene United. We're just running out of time, guys, but I just want to mention the tennis at the weekend, because I watched these two finals. Serena Williams winning the women's, fantastic performance. This is somebody who was very seriously ill a couple of years ago. She's come back now. She's up close to the record of all the big names like Navratilova and Chris Everett and Steffi Graf. And Nadal last night, incredible match. I'm not sure if any of you has watched it. He won the first set as if he was going to just blow Djokovic away. Djokovic came back brilliantly and then led 3-1 in the third set, and then Nadal won, I think, 11 of the last 13 games. So fantastic tennis. Serena Williams, Brendan, she's 32, 33 years of age now.
She seems to be around forever.
Yeah,
you know, the two sisters.
99, she won her first US Open, like,
you know,
99.
and you mentioned she came back from illness, and I think Nadal came back from a fairly serious injury
7
too.
months
So
out,
it really was, I suppose, the weekend US Open of the two guys coming back from bad injuries and getting big wins for them, and it shows you it'll give anyone that's injured out their hope maybe to come back again.
Absolutely, you got to, because at that level, Harry, to be out for that long and come back then and to reach the level. I mean, Nadal, that was his 13th Grand Slam, and he's only 4 behind Roger Federer, and he's still a relatively young man, you know. And 1 behind Sampras, that's right. If he wins, and he could conceivably, I mean, on the hard court, he's nearly unbeatable. So you could see him winning the Australian in January. That's right. Yeah, so that's him up with Sampras, and right. If he stays fit, I could certainly see him. I think he's lost 1 match in 59 or 60 in the French Open as well. You know, fantastic. It's great to see. I'm just raising them because I think it's fantastic to see talent like that who really don't need the money anymore. Both of them are very, very wealthy people, but the determination to come back and win, and you could see what it meant to Serena Williams, because she lost the second set. And she was well down, but she came back and won the third set 6-1. And the same with Nadal. When he was in trouble, most trouble last night, his class shone. And funny, I just seen that, Charlie. He's won 6.6 million this last 7 months since he came back from sore knees. So 10 championships he's won this year. Yeah, I think I'll start the tennis. I think I'll start something. Golf or tennis. Guys, thanks very much for coming in. Really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to a great sporting weekend ahead. That's it from Talking Sport for this week. Thanks to my guests Harry Walsh and Brendan Kilcoyne. We're recording here at Full Tilt Studios at the Mountain Top. Thanks to Tommy for looking after us. We'll be back with more on Talking Sport next week.